Okay, it's 6 p.m. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Can anyone hear me, please? Hello, good evening.
Hello, good evening. We can hear you. And please, we'll be having a little bit delay from the mentors, maybe like 10 to 15 minutes delay.
Okay, that's fine.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. While that happens, I think we have some mentees here. So at this point, we just get to discuss. Before I do that, hello, everyone. Good evening once again. My name is Goslove Kamaloni, and it's a huge privilege to be moderating today's session. This is the Entertainment Business and Law session of the Gypsy Mentorship and Internship Program. And it's always an honor to be doing this. I want to welcome everyone to today's session, and I believe it's going to be another incredible time. I'm still checking to be certain of how many mentees are here. I think so far I can see just it's quite, I think last week we had over, please kindly go to your groups to inform them that class has started. And it's one of my favorite topics today, being a fashion and entertainment lawyer. Myself, I take so much pride in this particular topic because it means a whole lot, especially in Nigeria, where the fashion business is seemingly overlooked. But I believe in recent times, with the inventions or with the coming into business of some high-profile designers, we have the Vicky James, the Prudential Atelier, and so many of them. We're beginning to hear some, I think, some cases when it comes to the fashion business. We're seeing copyright infringements. We're seeing things that differ between, I'll put it in a simple form, between inspirations and direct copy of works. And of course, what part of IP or the entertainment law covers the fashion business. Of course, when we look at garments, if we want to bring it into strict IP, what IPs do we have there? Anyway, that's for your mentors to speak on. My job today is to moderate, and we're going to do just that. I believe we have some mentees here. At this point, let's get talking. I want to know, how has the last 2 weeks, you've had 2 weeks already. This is our third week. How has it been so far? So I'll just call at random to be sure that our mentees are available. Hello, Edet Uduak Etim. Good evening. If you don't mind unmuting, I want to hear from you. How has the sessions, or how have the sessions been so far? Hello, Edet Uduak. Please, mentees, it's very, very essential that we actually participate and contribute to each session. This adds up to your final evaluation. Sincerely, it's not enough to come to class, mute, and turn off your cameras and disappear. You need to be involved. For some who are aware, I was a mentee also with the Gypsy program, and I would say this, it's changed my life. I think I did two courses at the same time with the Gypsy program and then returned for a third course. So, yes, I would say proudly I'm a Gypsy alumnus and I've done several courses with the Gypsy program. I've met some amazing mentors who translated from being my mentors online to be my mentors in real life. Um, to mention a few of them, one of your mentors for today is someone that I got to reach out to through this particular program. I've met the likes of Shukurat, an amazing IP personality. I've met the likes of Mr. Maxi Kombe, amazing IP personality. So many IP brains I've met from just this particular program, and it's so mind blowing. So listen, if we say get involved, I think my first book I got rather in data protection was because I was active as a mentee during my time. And I got an amazing book. It's still here. So over the years, growing as a lawyer, it has helped me diversify my field. So I want to employers, please, whenever you were in session, ensure you get involved. Do not just join the session and go mute. It's very, very, very important you get involved because you might not know who the mentor for that day is. That mentor could change your life. Okay, so while I'm waiting to hear from Udwak, I'll move over to Ifoma Okonkwo. Hello, Ifoma. Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Oh, nice voice. How you doing?
I'm fine.
Okay, I think we have one of our
Hope you're good.
mentors here. Welcome our mentor. I want to hear from you, Udwak. What has it been for you in the past few weeks in the Gypsy program?
Okay, so the past few weeks has been insightful. I have been open to topics that I was not very knowledgeable in, basically. So
Okay,
it has been interesting.
fantastic. And trust me, with Gypsy, it's going to get better. Thank you so much, Ifoma, for replying. I think I'll take one more person or two if time permits me before we get listen to hear from our mentor for today. I want to hear from Christabel Egan. Christabel Egan. I hope I got that correctly. Is it Egan or Egan? Christabel Egan. I think I'll stick with Egan. Hello, Christabel. Good evening. Hello, Christabel. Please, Gypsy staff, take notes of those that are not responding for final evaluations. Thank you. Okay, I'll quickly move to Abba David. Hello, Abba. Good evening. Hello, Abba David. Good evening. Okay. It seems most of them are on here, are here but not here. So I think I'll just do a quick sweep through to be sure of those we have with us here. Akpofure, are you with us, please? Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello.
Yes, good evening.
Okay, good evening, sir. Welcome to today's session.
Yes, a pleasure.
Okay, so tell me, sir, in just one line, how has it been for you in the past few weeks?
It has been thought-provoking. It has been really an eye-opener in the areas of intellectual property. You know, the different backgrounds of which intellectual property can be registered, and also the commercial areas, video, and also music industry. So these are the emerging areas that it has really given me a broader knowledge about going forward in terms of research and what are the rules and laws of governance in these industries going forward.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think I'll just take one last person at this point and then move into welcoming our mentor for today. Hello, R Star Plus One. I know last week you were quite okay, so he's on the move. Okay. Thanks for responding. I think on that popular face I remember from last week. That will be please, I want to employers ensure you put it gives you more professionalism basically when you're interacting with persons, so we can call you by your actual given name, your government name. I'll put that. Okay, hello, Vechills INC. Vechills.
Oh, hello, good evening. Oh, Virtues is my name actually.
Okay, okay,
Okay,
okay. So, in one line, tell us how has the program been for you in the past few weeks?
okay. The program and the classes has been mind refreshing. I have a little bit
Okay,
of intellectual property, and it has actually it's more like refreshing the memory. You know, when you want to tender evidence, it has given me in-depth insights into things I have forgotten, and it has put me back on my feet. and I'm looking forward to refreshing my mind more and learning more from my friends and colleagues.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Okay, at this point, I would not hold this any further as I want to move straight on into our mentor for today. We have two amazing mentors for today. I can see one already with us here in the session, and I'll quickly move on to welcome our mentors and, of course, hear from our mentor. Now, listen, the first lady I'll be calling, I said already, I got to meet her through the Gypsy program, and I reached out to her. One amazing thing about Gypsy mentors is the fact that if you reach out to them and properly introduce yourself, they will respond to you. She responded, gave me an insight. I think I'll just say something you should remember. I reached out to her before. I had some models having issues with taxes, and she also being very, very informed in the place of in the field of taxation as well as the fashion law. I reached out to her with something with regards to taxes with my models and a particular jurisdiction out of the country. She responded, she gave me something I could work with. I worked with her, and come on, it was pretty nice winning over a mediation. So it went really well. I had to have something good for my client to negotiate. So thank you so much, ma'am. And I'm speaking about the amazing, if you're online, you would know this person. That's Miss Bernice Ofere Asane. Please, I hope I got the last name correctly.
Yes,
Asane. I hope I got that. Thank you. I spent quite a while trying to get that right.
okay.
Thank you so much. Okay, so I'll just quickly go through her profile I have here, and trust me, it's one you want to listen to. And listen to her when she's speaking as well, and check her out after now. Okay, quickly, Miss Bernice is a visionary in the field of fashion law with a multifaceted legal background and a deep commitment to excellence. She has made significant strides in the fashion industry. Her educational journey stands as a testament to her dedication to mastering her craft. Her passion for fashion law took her to the prestigious Milano Fashion Institute in Milan, Italy. If you know Italy, one of the fashion capitals of the world. So her being here today is because she deserves to be here. She needs to be here, where she honed her expertise on an international stage. She has also earned certifications in intellectual property law from the World Intellectual Property Organization WIPO, and advanced intellectual property and intellectual property valuation rather from the Intellectual Property Institute. As the founder of Cardinal Counsel, a leading fashion law firm in Lagos, Nigeria, Ms. Asane has consistently demonstrated innovation and excellence. Her diverse clientele includes fashion and creative brands, startups, fashion technology companies, investors, models, and influencers. Her ability to navigate the intricate intersection of law and fashion has solidified her reputation as a trusted legal advisor within the industry. I agree to that. Ms. Asane's expertise encompasses various aspects of fashion law, including intellectual property rights, contract negotiation, employment law, and more. Her profound understanding of legal frameworks ensures that her guidance and education are tailored specifically to the fashion industry. Additionally, Ms. Asane holds a certification in tax law from the Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria. She's also a member of the Institute of Chartered Secretaries and Administrators of Nigeria, ACSAN, and advocate member of the Institute of Chartered Mediators and Conciliators of the Nigerian Bar Association. Currently, she's in the final stage of completing her LLM at Babcock University. Her commitment to advancing the field of fashion law is exemplified through her role as the founder of Fashion Law Institute. This groundbreaking institution is dedicated to addressing the gap in fashion law in Africa, advocating for legal reforms, fostering accountability, and conducting essential research within the African fashion industry. She actively participates as a speaker and facilitator at various fashion and creative industry events, training programs, and workshops. Ms. Asen's work continues to shape the future of fashion law in Africa and beyond. Now, mentees, I would implore you all, go on Instagram and follow her, because I do that And thank you, ma, for the wisdom you always give there. She has amazing write-ups. Listen, her Instagram page is a masterclass already. There are things I've learned that I've never seen in books on my own. I've learned from her page. Thank you so much, ma'am, for everything you've done so far. I'm a huge beneficiary of that. Thank you so much. In the fashion business, you are exceptional. Okay, our other mentor is also here. That's the amazing Michael Zugumnan. Michael is a detail-oriented law graduate of the Faculty of Law, Brigham University, Kano, Nigeria, with a strong passion for building a successful frontline career in legal practice. He has a growing interest in sports and entertainment law, particularly at the intersection of international law, intellectual property law, and corporate law. A strategic and analytical thinker, Michael is recognized for his leadership, communication skills, and commitment to continuous learning and professional development within the legal field. Beyond law, he's a founder of BFC Clothing Line, a member of the Capital Movement TMC, co-founder of Behind the Veil Collective BTVC, a member of the Kickoff Classic TKC, and a trailblazer of the Young Leaders Summit YLS. He's also deeply committed to humanitarian service and community impact. I'll say today it's going to be a field day when it comes to talking about fashion because we have some gurus here to demystify the field of fashion. So please, I know we have some mentees going to present. Please, mentees, get your presentations ready because after our mentors give us their opening statements and some insights on today's topics, we'll be listening to hear from you on your presentation skills. At this point, I want to go into a woman called a role model who has done so much work in the fashion law industry. Please, I want to open the floor to the amazing Miss Bernice Aseng. Thank you so much, ma'am, for joining us on today's session. The floor is yours. Shares this amazing wisdom you always give.
Thank you so much. It's nice to meet you again. It's always a pleasure to speak, especially when you are moderating it. It's quite exciting. Yeah, thank you so much. I would just, how many minutes do I have?
Okay, we can open with 20.
That's a lot, but okay. I guess that would be sufficient for me to just rush through my slide because I would like to use it. Hello, everyone. It's nice to be here talking to you about one of my favorite things, fashion law. Sorry, can you confirm that you can see my screen?
We can see your screen.
I hope it's not
Yes,
doing that
please.
thing where it's showing multiple screens. Just let me do that
Okay.
again.
It's out now.
Okay, let me just. Okay, can you see it clearly?
Okay, it's coming up. I don't know if that's. Yeah. Okay, much better now. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hello, everyone. So I am excited to talk about fashion law, and I will just be giving some industry foundations to what fashion law is and all of that. I like to add because I saw a lot of people talk about IP, and I know definitely that this session or the mentorship program is really about IP, but because every time I talk about fashion law, a lot of people tend to think that, oh, it's almost, it's IP conversation and all of that. I tend to also talk about that. So I like to always give introductions to what fashion law is because I know that there's a lot of misconception as to what it is, what you'll be doing, and all of that. And this is me presuming that I am talking to law students and young lawyers. Yeah, so my name is Bernice. I founded the Fashion Law Institute. It's the first institution dedicated to the intersection of fashion and law in Africa. And we do a lot of research, advocacy, and education in the fashion industry. And this is because the state and stage of the fashion industry is where that really you are not exactly focused on fashion law, but you're focused on fashion policy. And by policy, it means you are looking at the industry and coming up with rules, regulation, helping build like structures on how the industry is formed. So it is very foundational, right? So what you're doing as a lawyer or a legal person or a professional playing in the space, because really fashion policy is not just limited to only lawyers themselves, even though lawyers would craft this legislation, but it would deal with a lot of stakeholders in the fashion industry, right? So we do a lot of advocacy work, and that's the cross of the work that I do as a fashion lawyer. Um, we have various initiatives at the Fashion Law Institute. You can check us out. Why are we thinking about fashion law? The African fashion market is currently growing. Every day we hear a lot of valuation. Every day we see articles talking about the fact that, oh, African fashion is rising and it's the next big thing. It's the greatest thing that has happened to Nigeria's or Africa's creativity. And we hear about a lot of things that are beautiful, right? But for me, I believe that yes, there's a market opportunity in the African fashion, but for us to harness that market opportunity, laws, rules, and regulation have to exist. And that's why I said that the foundational role really that I do is not exactly fashion law, but fashion policy, right? So it is you saying that this industry deserves to grow, but we need the right laws, we need the right protection, we need the right regulation to make this industry harness its potential. So there's a lot of things there. And I'm saying this because also, even as a lawyer, you're asking yourself, can I really focus my practice on fashion law? A lot of lawyers mix fashion law with other things, and it is also great because it will improve your skill. But again, I'm saying this so that it would sort of make you understand that fashion law is not a niche area. It's not something that is very small to specialize in. It's not something that it is, oh, if I focus on fashion law alone, it doesn't really sound as serious. Will I only be dealing with fashion designers? It is sufficient and enough to be a practice area for a lawyer. I focus on fashion law. I probably started out doing other things, but now, right, with the way that work has increased for me, it's difficult for me to take on other things. I have to get lawyers to handle them. With the way that I now focus on the entire value chain of the fashion industry, the way that I focus on brands who need me from, registration to if they even have litigation and those representations that they need. I don't have to think about other practice areas. I'm constantly thinking about this area, this industry, right? And I would explain what I mean by practice area because I think that a lot of young lawyers and a lot of people have different ideas of what um, um, fashion law is, right? And in terms of also what specialization in law is, there's a lot of debate. Every time you go on Twitter, a lot of people have a lot of things to say. And, why they might be right or correct, I think that law practice is very dependent on who you are, really. It depends on what you're interested in. But I like to let you know that specialization in law is not just about focusing on a particular focusing on transaction or focusing on litigation. I personally don't believe that the specialization that exists is if you're going to be a transactional lawyer or if you're going to be a litigation lawyer. For me, right, what I think it is focus on a particular industry or a subject matter. Now, industry, fashion is an industry. Fashion has an entire value chain. When you think about it, you're thinking about raw materials, you're thinking about the transformation of raw materials, you're thinking about distribution of the finished goods, and then you're also thinking about how you handle the disposal of that particular product. So it's an entire value chain, a very big industry, a very vast industry that you are going to be dealing with a lot of different subject matters, right? When the moderator was talking, he was talking about the very fact that we spoke about or worked on a tax-related deals relating to models. And to me, that's fashion law, right? To other people, it's just basically tax, but tax is a subject matter specialization that you can have, right? While fashion in itself is not just focusing on intellectual property, it's focusing on many other subject matters that relate to the fashion industry. So it is not just only about IP, right? It's a lot of other things that you have to be interested in for you to actually be a very solid lawyer, right? So yeah, you look at specialization from the lenses of industry specialization and subject matter specialization because really and truly that's what makes you valuable. So you identify a particular industry and identify the various subject matters that you have to be vast on to become that go-to authority in that region, and this can cut across transaction and litigation, right? In recent time, I found myself being a litigation lawyer, and my friends would speak to me and they're like, "Oh, you're very much interested in litigation." I'm like, "Yeah." Because right now I have a lot of fashion brands and they want to fight. People are stealing their designs. How do you advise them if you are saying, "Oh, I'm just an IP lawyer and I do registrations and all of that"? How do you think about a particular case, even if you're not even doing litigation? But how do you advise a client whose product is being infringed on what the law is and what the law can uphold when you go to court? So you have to have some level of exposure to litigation. I mean, I genuinely believe that if you have a litigation experience and you work in fashion or in fashion law, you most likely will be very at an advantage, because a lot of lawyers in this space do not exactly have litigation experience, and that doesn't make them less of a lawyer, right? We just have different skill sets to make us stand out differently. So you have to think about it when you talk about IP litigation. It is very heavy in the fashion industry, and one of the reasons why the jurisprudence is not growing, the reason why you see that enforcement is very weak, is because we don't have a lot of case laws. We don't have a lot of people representing brands to go to court. Do we have a lot of brands that want to go to court? Yes. But do they go to court eventually? No. I know that funding might be one of the considerations, but I think essentially it is probably the lawyers discouraging them not to go. So it's a lot of things, right? So when you think about socialization in law, I really don't want you to box yourself to say, "Oh, if I focus on IP and if I focus on fashion, if I focus on this area, I would not relate." Once you focus in a particular industry, you will deal with a lot of subject matter. In fashion, you will deal with taxation, of course, because it cuts across other goods. You would deal with anti-dumping laws. You would deal with money laundering, because you see that fashion is also luxury and it's expensive. Nigerian fashion is not cheap. And when you start talking about huge amounts of money, right? When you talk about gemstones buying, things like precious stone buying, you see that's a lot of money and it costs a lot. So you would see that they have to pay attention to what's that thing called now, anti-money laundering regulations, and you would advise your brand on those things. You would advise on litigation, IP, you would advise on internet laws, because the fashion industry is virtually online. They sell online, they sell across platforms, they sell it's very international, right? And international because of social media, and you have to understand what social media laws exist. As we stand right now in the fashion industry, social media laws and regulation, terms and conditions of social media platforms greatly affect enforcement of intellectual property rights, especially for fashion, because a lot of them sell online. Now you have people replicating their design. Yesterday, I was drafting a brief, and it was a case of where a website was set up to replicate all of the designs of my clients, and we're going through that website, right? And we're thinking about ways to bring down the website. We're thinking about ways to go against them. So you have to think about stuff. You have to think about cross-border laws. You have to think about international laws. You have to think about conventions. You have to think about a lot of things. So it's not just only about, "Oh, I understand what the traditional provisions of law that exist." It's you saying, "Oh, my client is selling on TikTok. What are the avenues to file for trademark infringement or for IP infringement on TikTok?" Because it's something that it comes very constantly. Even in the course of last week, I remember one of our clients reached out to say, "Oh, our clothes is being infringed on in Brazil, and one popular fashion magazine has carried that particular dress. We have to get them to take it down." You have to find a way to understand how social media, how internet laws operate, so that you can help with the enforcement of these things, right? So it's important that you think about laws, the fashion industry, across various subject matters, not just one, right? You're thinking about resource sourcing law. That's an aspect of law that also affects the fashion industry. You're looking at local content laws. So those are things that you have to consider when you decide to focus on socialization. Don't go into the mindset that, "Oh, fashion really is about IP." Yes, IP is a very foundational pillar of fashion, but you will provide more than just IP. In fact, there are a lot of arguments, very academic, but also the very fact that, the current IP laws does not exactly focus on African does not take into consideration African specific problems when it comes to IP protection, and I'll explain why. But again, before I get there, I would just like to say that it's really not about the decision to specialize in a particular area. Really, it's not about, oh, do I specialize or not? It's really about just, being one of the best lawyers, regardless of the fields that you decide to focus on. It's also about making the very fact that the one that you have chosen is the best thing that you will ever do. I know many times people say, oh, should I pick this? Should I pick that? And they're looking for external validation. You see questions online, people asking, should I focus on this area? Should I do my master's in this area? The truth about it is that you can pick any area that you are not remotely passionate about, but you do great work there. And you just find out that, oh, this comes very easy to me and I really like it, right? And people don't understand that sometimes when you improve your skill in something, you find that your passion comes from it because you're focused on how you can solve it. But sometimes when you don't know things, right, people tend to think that, oh, they're not passionate about it, but they don't know that passion will come from a journey. And I'm saying this because a lot of people think that they are not passionate about litigation or they're not passionate about a particular area of law, but really and truly it's because they have not consistently done it, right? And then because of course our system of our research system makes it very difficult for anybody to really get that first-hand experience to want to love that area. And again, I know I'm mentioning litigation, I'm not advocating for it, but it's something that I've seen lately. I have found myself wanting to do more of because of the kind of area that I have focused on. So fashion law is not exactly the easy way out. I see a lot of young lawyers also say, oh, I'll just focus on fashion law because every other thing seems very, very hard. Fashion is difficult. It's something that you have to be serious about. You still have to be one of the best lawyers that exists to be fashion. You don't say, oh, I did poorly, so I can focus on something very, very menial. No, that's not it's not an escape route, right? So there are other areas, right? And I've mentioned, some myths, right? Fashion law is not about IP. Fashion law is not also about the business of fashion. People tend to think that, oh, when you talk about fashion law, I'm talking about Vicky James and her dress, and that's all it is. No, there's many other businesses that relate. In fact, fashion law is used as an umbrella term to govern all other subsectors. It's up to almost 39, right? There are other subsectors in the fashion industry. There are models. There are jewelry and gemstones, right? There are perfumes, right? There's wristwatches. There are entire regulations that govern all of those areas. There are sub businesses that exist that you may not say it is business of wristwatches, but then it's business of fashion, right? So there are people who come up with a lot of unique ideas. There's footwear and accessory. There's leather, right? Nigeria has a leather policy, right, for the leather industry, so to speak, or leather related industry. There's a lot of conversations around textile and the various textile that exists, because textile is different from garment, right? Cotton is different from fiber. When you focus on fashion, you realize that all of these things are really different. You would see that fashion law, you will see that there's cotton, textile, and garments. You see that there's a lot of subsectors that really one law can't even cover, right? So it's important for you to understand that fashion law really is not only about the basic business of fashion. It's not only about a designer's dress was infringed, or because a lot of times people tend to reduce it to that conversation. It's not bad, but that's not the only conversation you can have, because once you understand that there are many subsect to it, you would see that there are a lot of clientele for you to advise, right? So it's not a subfield of intellectual property. Intellectual property is rather a subfield of fashion law. You can focus on IP and you can focus on other things. Yeah, so when I was talking about the fact that there's an argument that the current IP laws that we have is not exactly focused on Africans' reality. And it's true, because the current laws you have would focus on one author. It's very individualistic in nature, right? But if you look at intellectual property, we sort of have almost like cultural property, communal property, because you would see that we don't even have a specific person that owns culture. Culture is something that belongs to a group of people, and fashion is both cultural, fashion is also commercial, and it's also artistic. Now, because of all of this different dimension of fashion, it becomes very difficult to say only just one law or only one author can actually think about a particular product. So what I'm trying to say in essence is that you would see that IP, you would see that ownership in the African sense is focused on a collective, and the current laws that you have doesn't exactly focus on that. So you have to understand fashion law from an Afrocentric approach, right? You have to look at it from an Afrocentric point of view, where that you have to understand what is happening in Africa, what exactly Africa's unique contribution to the fashion industry is, for you to actually be a fashion lawyer or somebody who provides services here, right? So for example, people would say that, I mean, it's not people would say, it's a known fact that Africa's contribution to the global fashion markets are raw materials, right? I mean, you can look at all of the brand, most of their raw materials, 90% even, is sourced from Africa. So when you think about that, you start thinking about resource sourcing and extractive law, because they are not just taking finished product, they're taking our raw materials, they're extracting from Africa, right? So you would see that there are laws that govern extraction, right? There's also the very fact that there's local content, in the sense that you have international people coming here to extract, and then there are laws that govern the fact that they have to have 50% local content in their company, and then the other 50% can be imported. There are manufacturers in Nigeria that provide garment services and safety garments to foreign companies, because we have local content laws that make it very compulsory for these companies to patronize our manufacturers locally. And I'm saying they produce shoes, they produce eyeglasses, they produce overalls for oil and gas company typically, and there's certification and compliance that even exists that these manufacturers have to meet. Now, if you're a lawyer that provides services to a manufacturer providing or producing goods or for this kind of bidding, you have to help them out with their compliance, and that's where you have to understand all of those laws that it relates to. So there are various aspects. You have to understand the fashion ecosystem. You have to understand, like I mentioned, raw materials sourcing. When you think about the raw materials, when you think about the idea, you go source the materials, it becomes a finished product. All of the things that makes it a finished product, you distribute it. From distribution, it gets to the, you have logistics, you have supply chain, then you have the consumer themselves, and then afterwards you have what happens after, after the product is being used. How do you dispose of it? Sustainability is one of the major areas of fashion, so you have to think about how you recycle those products and what happens to that product after usage. So when you think about that value chain, that supply chain, you will realize that you can identify potential clients, right? There's
Hello,
there is
ma'am.
hello, hi.
Yes, I think that's our time this. So I'll give some time to round off. Thank you.
Okay, I'm sure that I'm almost done. I'm sure I'm almost done. So
Okay, thank you.
so you have all of this value chain, and when you understand the various part of it, you can identify clients that you can work with. You can identify who you're playing, and that's why I said who fashion law is for. So you have to understand the various players in the fashion industry. You have to understand the various ecosystem, and then understand the various laws. You have data protection, you have beauty and cosmetic regulation. I just heard that day before yesterday or yesterday, we have a new beauty and cosmetic policy in Nigeria. So those are things that you pay attention to. You have consumer protection laws, you have development and immigration laws that you have to think about, right? So think about it too. There's the biggest company in fashion, LVMH. They have over 6 different sectors, and it has almost 75 brands under them. So you have to think about your fashion brand like that. They have different ideas, they have different things that they are thinking about. So I gave us examples of people who are doing great stuffs in the fashion industry. Yeah, so I think that I would call it a wrap. Like, I mean, I would wait for questions. I'm sure I will listen to your presentation and I will continue, share my ideas from there. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Always mind-blowing listening to you speak. I like how you explain the fact that most people should stop getting it wrong when they say fashion law is all about IP. It transcends IP. Fashion law is a lot. Someone could make that. Yes, mentees, thank you. I know, listen, when you hear Miss Bernice speak, then you know what those of us who are following her actually enjoying. Thank you so much. That clarification was really needed because a lot of people always have that misconception. They think everything about fashion law just revolves around IP. There are so many other players there. And trust me, the industry is big enough for those who are willing to work. Fashion law is a new frontier in Nigeria. So you don't step in because it's easy. I think it's, I would say it's difficult because you're among the first to do that. So if you're coming to fashion law, you must come correct. Thank you so much, ma'am. And I'm sure we'll be coming back to you soon. Okay, I think I'm back. Hello, Mr. Michael. Good evening, sir. Okay, I can see him with us, although... Hello, Mr. Michael. I don't know if you can hear me. You're actually muted and your camera is also off, so I cannot see nor hear you. Okay, so I'll allow Mr. Dennis work on that in the background with him and then give me a feedback to be sure that we still have him with us. And okay, probably he's going off to come back in. So mentees, in a moment I'll just say this. I hope by now you're getting you're working on those presentations because the field is changing. And one more time, I think I will say big kudos to ma'am for an amazing slide. That slide was beautiful. No, that's how you know a lawyer in fashion. Even to the slide she does, it's superb, top notch. Thank you so much, ma'am. Okay, so at this point, I want to go to our mentees for their presentations. So I will wait for Mr. Michael to return to the session. Okay, we have two groups who are presenting here today, I believe. I want to give the group to the first presenter from group one.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Okonkwo Ifoma, and I'm the presenter for Group 1.
Okay, the
So
floor is
I'll
just
just be
carry on,
sharing
please.
I'll just be sharing my screen so you can see the slide.
Okay.
Give me a minute. Can you see my screen?
Oh, yes, please. Yes, please.
Hello? Okay. So our topic today is on fashion business and law. Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, please. Can hear you. Carry on, please.
Okay. So basically, the fashion industry of today is not just about creativity and design. It is a global business that involves a lot of legal regulations now. So fashion business refers to all commercial activities which are involved in design, production, branding, and distribution of clothing and accessories. All these activities are intertwined with legal framework, which is important in safeguarding creative work. So how intellectual property actually enters into this. So intellectual property are legal rights which are granted to creators for their innovations or creative work. In the fashion industry, IP rights are actually very essential as they help them to protect their original designs, logos, and patterns. So there are three forms of intellectual property that protects the fashion industry, which is basically trademark, copyright, and design rights. Trademark protects brand name, logos, and symbols, which are used to identify the source of fashion products. The main aim of a trademark is to allow consumers to distinguish one brand from another. So an example can be seen with the Nike logo, the check mark, which is used to distinguish Nike from other businesses. And we could also use something local like Coca-Cola, the colors and also the branding. That is a trademarked logo. Another aspect of IP law that protects the fashion industry is copyright. So copyright basically protects artistic works such as textile prints, fabric patterns, and fashion sketches. If it's an original design, then copyright is there to prevent others from copying or reproducing it without permission. The third IP rights that protects fashion industry is the design rights. Design rights protect the visual appearance, shape, or aesthetic design of a fashion item. So we go to the importance of intellectual property in fashion. So intellectual property is basically to encourage innovations and creativity due to the fact that designing anything takes significant time and efforts and resources too. So it basically protects us from being copied from competitors. So the main aim of IP protection is basically to maintain brand identity and consumer protection. Then we go down to licensing in the fashion industry. So there are instances where a business can allow another person to use their brand name or logo or design. This is known as licensing. So it's a business agreement between the brand owner, which is known as the licensor, and another person or a company, which is known as the licensee, to use its brand name, logo, or designs in exchange for payments. These payments are usually in form of royalties. So licensing basically allows fashion brands to expand into new product categories without having to manufacture the products themselves. They just help in maintaining quality control to ensure that the brand's reputation is not damaged. So an example of this is Calvin Klein, that's the designer, licensing its brand to different manufacturers to produce items such as the eyewear, watches, and underwear. Another way in which a business can allow another person to use its logo or colors is franchising. So it is a business model where the company, which is the franchisor, allows another party, which is the franchisee, to operate a business using its brand name, products, and established business system. So in franchising, the franchisee runs the store. However, they will follow the franchisor's guidelines when it comes in regards to branding, operations, marketing, and product standards. And in return, they would pay franchise fee or ongoing royalties. So for instance, Zara having different retail stores all over the world. Although franchising and licensing they might sound like they are similar, but they're actually quite different. In licensing, so licensing basically allows another company to use the brand name or design for specific products. The licensor has limited involvement in how the licensee can run the business. However, in franchising, it involves a complete business model where the franchisor provides operational systems, branding guidelines, and support to the franchisee. So in conclusion, fashion business and law are all closely interconnected as there are legal frameworks put in place to help protect creativity, regulate business relationships, and support the commercial growth of fashion brands. So that's basically the end of our slide.
Okay. Thank you so much, Ifoma, for how I like how that went so straight on. Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think that's some group one. Amazing job. It was really nice getting to hear some familiar terms again. Thank you so much for quite an amazing presentation. Thank you. Okay, I want to open the floor to group two, please, for their presentation before we move on. Group two, please, the floor is open for a presentation, please.
Good evening, sir. Good evening, sir.
Okay, good evening, sir. The floor is yours. You may carry on, please.
I was thinking, can let me share from your end, sir? Monica, I was thinking if I'll be able to share from my end. Thanks for doing it. Yes, thank you, sir.
All right, give me 1 minute. Let me do that. Let me bring up your slides. Thank you. And please, when I bring it up, notify me when you want me to change the slides for
Yes,
me.
I will.
Okay, while the slide is coming on, please, you may carry on with introductions, please, due to time, so we can move along. Thank you. Okay, while we're waiting for that, I think I'll just move over to our second mentor to hear from him
Yeah.
if he's available to speak now.
Okay. Okay, sir. I think I will. Okay.
Okay.
Can I go on, sir?
Hello, Mr. Michael. I don't know if he's back. I see him on.
Okay. Good evening. Sorry, I had a network issue. I'm back now. Thank you.
Okay. Are you okay to have your session now, please?
I think Mr. Elisha wants to present too. If he's ready now, then he can present. But if he's not, then I'm willing to go ahead.
Okay. Please, Mr. Dennis, can we have Mr. Elijah if group two go on now? Okay, I
Yes, sir.
think
That's it.
yes, the slide is on. Group two, so you have your time, 7 minutes, please. The floor is yours. Carry on.
So I'll be presenting on the fashion business and law from sketch to global brand, covering the distribution, infringement and enforcement and contract aspect of the fashion business and law. Next slide, please. My name is Mr. Next slide, sir. Yes. This is where creativity means commerce, where we're talking about the global industry, and most of some of the things I would like to say in this, not to take our time, has been discussed by my Miss Venice and Ifoma of the group one. So some are be filled in, and some I will just need to touch briefly to save us some time. Next slide, sir. So this will cover talking about how the fashion industry tends to be a global industry, the employment powerhouse, and the legal foundation behind the framework. Financing the dream. This is where we're talking about how creatives tend to seek financing from angel investors, venture capitals, and traditional financing. In the global space, from big brands like the Zara's, the LMVH, and others, these people tend to have access to major venture capitals, while startup in creatives in Nigeria also start off with their own personal savings, finances from brands, and over time they tend to scale up to getting financing from banks and other venture capitals. Next slide, sir. Yes. Distribution. This is what we're talking about. Getting the fashion brand. This is what we're talking about. Getting the fashion brand. Getting the fashion items from they're getting about the fashion items from the manufacturing of to the consumers, and this comes with strategies of direct to consumers approach, wholesales and licensing agreements, and all most of all these channels often comes with some legal framework, whereby the direct to consumers comes in such a way whereby the creatives themselves or the brand themselves they tend to reach out to brands by direct online marketing, inflection marketing, and also mechanism they can use to get this thing. Meanwhile, they also come to whereby selling to retailers such as boutiques, departmental stores for broader market outreach, and just like more of what supermarket in the likes of the Zara's and more. And the licensing agreement, this comes in whereby a brand could license their brand, license another company, another entity to operate on their brand, more like what Tiana, House of Tiana did with uh, franchise, having to liaise with the likes of Showmax, the Ebony Life, and all to just create an empire, a media empire, thereby diverting from the fashion world to the media world. Next slide, sir. Yes, protecting design. This is what we talk about the crime, infringement, and enforcement. One of the main means whereby brands tend to protect their designs often comes with trademarks. This is protecting their brand names, logos, and distinct trade dress that identify the brand. Copyright. This is regarding original designs, elements, prints, sculpt, pattern, and creative expression. Patents for innovative wearable technologies or revolutionary manufacturing processes. This is whereby, in the case of an Adidas could patent their shoes and or any of their designs to be something that another brand can't tend to use that particular design, and they tend to patent that design. That's what one of the mechanisms, and that could be. And for example, Christian Louboutin famously fought to protect its red soles trademarks over the time, whereby once people tend to see a red sole, they know by even before having to check, they know it has to be a Louis Vuitton, Christian Louboutin. Next slide, sir. Yes. Okay. The contractual problem. This is what we discussed in contract. Every framework of the fashion industry to also come to some legal frameworks that are backing it, making it a commercial success. And this comes in manufacturing, and some could be manufacturing agreements whereby a brand could lease or license the manufacturing plant or manufacturing company to manufacture something for them. This are according to their guidelines and specs that fit the brand. Distribution agreement. This is outlining sales territories, channels, and responsibilities. For instance, Michael Kors in New York could license Michael Kors Hong Kong to create a particular line of wristwatches or just that will be selling within the Hong Kong or within the China territory and mustn't sell outside that territory. Licensing agreement is more granting rights for brand uses, royalties, and quality control, more like the one of the Zara we discussed about, the one of the House of our own Nigeria, House of Piana, and many more of some other brands. Nike too, many of all these brands, Louis Vuitton too, have done something of such whereby they could license the brand to create. It could be on media. There are media licenses, there are brand licenses, and there are many more of that. A fashion licensing agreement might grant a swimwear company the right to use a luxury brand name or picture for a specific regional purpose, and the brands then tend to earn their royalty from that. Next slide, sir. Yes. Infringement and enforcement. This is also the dark side of the fashion creative movement, whereby it comes with counterfeiting, design piracy, and appropriate legal action taken to enforce this. Unauthorized production and sales of fake goods that damage brand reputation. For instance, there was some years a report went by whereby Louis Vuitton had to incinerate some numbers of products that didn't meet their brand guidelines as assigned to the manufacturers. Or they sued the company and they had to incinerate the excess brand out of like let's say 10,000 exclusive and design they had to make. They only got like 2 of 50, which was beyond which was better than what they wanted. Design piracy. This is copying unique design elements without permission or credit. Years back in the last year, 2025, we had our own Nigerian Vicky James having to steal a Senegalese outfit for copying our design, and over time, she tends to win that. So that is something about design piracy and the logo the logo framework backing that. Legal action could come to a cease and desist letter, lawsuits, customs seizure to protect IP rights, and more. The fast fashion industry often face scrutiny for allegedly design infringement or original creators, rational creation among innovation. This is whereby some brands, in most of the fashion brands like streetwear, they often get their brands infringed, and some they could tend to be in the public domain, and some could be crossing beyond the lines. Next slide, sir. Next slide. Yes. Navigating the supply chain. Ethical sourcing and ESG. This is the increase on sustainability, labor force, and environmental impact. Ethical sourcing, this is whereby brands tend to do the average sourcing or ethical sourcing of their raw materials, their workforce, and the years where that fits into the environmental sustainability growth. And for instance, there was a year where H&M were being slandered and being boycotted by fans, by prospects, by the masses for having to operate on child labor. This point where brands tend to focus their operation upon. And the supply chain transparency. This is where consumers demand to know where and how products are made. There are some consumers who want to have their brand, their product to say when it says 100% cotton, they really want it to be 100% cotton. They really want to know where the cotton came from. Hence why we always have the labels to say made in Turkey, made in China, made in India, and the like of that. Regulatory compliance, adhering to import and export law, labeling requirements, and safety standards has been um, has been declared by the territory company in the complying body of each of this region. For instance, in Nigeria now, our own alcohol now this has proclaimed that okay, any brand that will be doing any media publicity must be adhered to 75% of the content being Nigerian content. In fact, they'll be working with an international model. 75 of the content must be Nigerian related or Nigerian content or Nigerian in the models in such a case. Next slide, sir. Yeah. The future of fashion law, tech and law models. This is digital assets. Talking about digital assets, NFT and virtual fashion in the metaverse, creating IP challenges. With the likes of the recent advent of AI, there are many designs now being infringed, many designs, copyrighted designs now being infringed, and with this digital assets now, brands are liaising with AI companies to beat this counterfeit. AI design, this is legal application of AI generated designs and ownership questions. For instance, now some brands may want to generate maybe some commercials and having to use AI. And if the AI generates the content that is infringing another person's designs, this is where the law and fashion law comes into play. And when we're talking about resale market, legal framework for the booming second-hand fashion industry, when manufacturers design make their products, second-hand products, for instance, having to sell the product in London and somebody gets to buy that in Nigeria, having to do that if due to some factors, they might be infringing some legal frameworks that are binding such sales. Next slide, sir.
Okay, please, at this point, you kindly begin to round off, please.
Yeah, this is the last slide. I'm rounding off. So at this point, the bottom line, fashion legal compass, this is where where the law tends to protect the creativity of the creator behind the fashion designs. And with this, so to enable growth and the ensure ethics, that's one of the compass of the law on the fashion industry. Next slide, that's the final slide. Yes, sir. This is very good. So I'll be stopping at this point. So understanding the legal.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Rashid, for that one. Thank you. Okay, so I would not want to hold us any further. Our mentors are here and they're willing to speak. So we have Mr. Michael with us. I was listening through and I saw you mentioned AI, and of course, ownership of most of these rights. Recently, something happened in the Nigerian fashion industry. I think to give Mr. Michael time to get ready to come up. There's a particular one on board right now, and I believe Ms. Bernice would have first-hand knowledge about this, so she'll probably demystify later. And that's, yes, the Jarvis dress fiasco. Jarvis dress fiasco. One person designed, one person did the tailoring, one person paid for the outfit. And the question is, who owns the outfit? I believe we'll get to hear more on this in fashion business and law. Of course, what someone should ensure their clients to do in the future when they're posed with such kind of situations. But before we go into that, I want to leave the floor open for our other mentor, Mr. Michael, to please give us his take on today's topic, fashion, business, and law. Mr. Michael, if you're with us now, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, good evening.
Good evening. You're welcome, sir.
Once again, it's a pleasure to be mentoring in this platform. Yeah, so I've listened to different speakers today, and truly, I would say I've gotten a lot from each and every one of you, and from also of the recent one, I think the recent one on AI in regards to who owns the dress about Jarvis, and not just only Jarvis, the designers, the how will I put it? Let me see, the crafters, those who design, who draws, who brings out the plan and everything, and fighting for who has true ownership is a very legal question which is yet to be answered. But today, I think I'll be focusing more on the contractual parts of fashion business law and also the e-commerce part of fashion business law. And without doubt, I don't know if you can see my screen. I don't know.
Okay, yes, please, you can see your slide now.
Okay, so my slides is divided into 3 modules, but I'm going to quickly run through the first module. And I think the first speaker highlighted that fashion business law is vast. It don't just limit just to only clothing. Yes, there's also the makeup part of fashion. There is also modeling. Those we view like that models and promote other people brands. Vast there's also vast amount of let me see, section of the fashion law which most people tend to not look at, and the situation of the country has made it look that fashion is just only deals with clothing, but it doesn't just deal with clothing, it also deals with branding and more. Yeah, so fashion business law is like this, where there is business, there is law. We cannot deny that, because without laws, then we can't be able to say we can have a successful business. Yes, so where there is business, there has to be laws, because if you don't have what will guide you, like what policies you use in your business, then I don't think you'll be able to make sales or even have commerce or business on its own. So business and fashion business and law is the intersection of creativity, that is the design, identity, culture. I can remember the first speaker talking about culture too, that fashion has to do with culture. So it also deals with culture, and also deals with commerce, money, sales, distribution. Because where there is commerce, where there is business, they always tend to be fights when it comes to anything involving money. And we can clearly just state that if they are not if the law doesn't come in to help tackle such incidents of disputes, then we can say there's actually laws. And there's also laws like rightly states, everybody deals with intellectual property, and also protection of brand and compliance with the law. And the the major issues that is faced in fashion business law is not just only brand thefts. We also have bad deals, and we have customers disputes. And if we look at it under fashion business law, we shouldn't just only be on the side of intellectual property. What happens to consumers laws? Yes, because a consumer can not be satisfied with your product, and he will come back to you and be like, I'm not satisfied with your product. And what do you do then? That's why we have consumers law that helps to tackle such disputes. And Yes, the intellectual property fashion business law protects your brand, your logo, slogan, and design. And yes, so that is running through. So I'm going to give an example. So Nike, Adidas, Gucci, Louis Vuitton, and also my brand BFC. All those can be we can clearly state that yes, they are a fashion brand, and yes, they have strong presence in the fashion world. Now, the first thing you have to know about fashion business is if you want to start up a business, yes, you have to have a kind of identity. Yes, your identity matters. And what do you do when you have an identity? You protect that identity, whereby you will have to register, not just only register your identity, you trademark it. It is safe to say we have to trademark. And in our present days, do we have an issue? There's a present issue on trademarking. I'm going to divert a bit because the present current situation between B Lord and Very Dark Man is a big rhetoric question where B Lord went to trademark that of Very Dark Man, and Very Dark Man retaliated and also went to trademark B Lords. And that in the fashion industry too, that is a big question. That is a big dispute because we have instances where people like goes into brand identity thefts, not just only brand identity thefts, the logos, everything about your business, they tend to copy. And if you're not rightly protected, then how does the law protect you? That is a big question. And also, even though up to date, um it hasn't yet been decided in courts who truly or who is the real owner of the Billard brand or the Very Dark Man brand, but it's a big rhetoric question. If you don't trademark your business, you are open to theft. If you don't secure your business to so that others will not be able to copy, then and even though they copy, if you're not able to protect yourself, if you're not able to trademark in a way where you can easily just fight them, or no, sorry, let me not say fight, where you can easily go to court and win such cases, then what's the point of having a brand? Because the idea of a brand is for you to for the idea of a fashion brand is not just only for commerce, is your identity. You trade you go to an office where you present your brand as your identity, and they'll be like, oh yes, I've seen this somewhere. Yes, okay, you're the owner because of, and you have legal certificates. That is your trademark. And and fashion business law generally is just to help you out in securing that identity. Now I'll be heading up to module 2, which talks about the contractual part of fashion business and law. And the big truth you should know about fashion is that fashion is not just a design. Fashion is deals, because like the last speaker, I think the group I just presented, I saw a list of contracts. Yes, and is and yes, those are parts of fashion business law, because we have manufacturer agreements, supplier agreements, influencer and brand ambassadors contracts. Those this in particular is very crucial, because you can let me say find get an influencer to help promote your brand. And if you're not let me say, if you're not documented, like if you don't enter a contract with such influencer, you tend to lose, because at the end of the day, the influencer can rightly just take you to court and say that there was no legal backing, or there was no contract or document stating that he has so this and so that. You get, so all those things too are very essential, because brand influencers and ambassadors, they are becoming very rampant, and they are very useful, because for you to make sales, you have to look for the right audience, and these influencers have the right audience. So it is well to note that you have to have a contract or an agreement between such influencers. And there are also collaboration agreements, model release forms. Yes, model release forms, very essential. You can you can join the model release forms and influencer ambassadors contracts. You can like they are not too distinct from each other, but it's safe to say that all model release forms too. It needs is a document that you need to have in having a contract under fashion business law. And there's also photographer, stylist contracts, a lot of contracts in the fashion business law. Now, why contracts matter in fashion business and law is because it will help you it will protect you from delays, poor quality, loss of money, ownership confusion, partnership disputes, and brand reputation damage. Is that everything that I have listed about fashion business and law? That's what the contract will help you or save you as. Now, starting business. Let me say, as when I was in university, I had numerous businesses in campus. You get, and those businesses that I had, most of them were not legally protected because in the goods I sell were majorly not mine and is a borrowed, but the consumers did not need to know. They did not need to know because at the end of the day, I'm the one putting myself on the forefront, and the goods I'm producing to my consumers, to my buyers, I am the owner of them. I am the producer of it. But to me, I know I am the one that I know where I sourced my product and I know how I'm selling it. I'm selling it to my consumers. You get, so contracts help you like secure you from all these things because you can have like you're meant to get a distribution of goods for maybe social dates and maybe your contract doesn't clearly state the date. Those are also issues you get you because of it doesn't have clear cuts. It doesn't have a clear definition. It doesn't have a clauses that helps protect you, then and in the end of the day you get to lose because in fashion business you also look at you don't just look at gains, you also look at losses because you have to secure yourself from not making big losses, and you have to secure yourself from not getting sued. And even if you get sued, you need to have a backing where okay you sorry you need to have a clause where it clearly states that if so happens, you will not be held liable. So in today's purview, we can see where delays affect. I meant to get a delivery for so date, and I'm meant to distribute that product to on so date, and because of I'm getting delayed from the manufacturers, I can't deliver to my clients, and which tends to affect. You get, now, if that happens now, who is meant to be held liable? Am I to be held liable? Is the manufacturer meant to be held liable? Officially, yes. The consumer is not in. Let me say the consumer doesn't have. Sorry, the consumer cannot be held liable because he's the final consumer. You get, so in that state, who will the consumer hold? Will he hold me, or will he hold the manufacturers? When you in recent, we can see where the final consumers tend to hold the brand owners. Those are the middlemen. I am the middleman, and in such situations, because I don't have a clear cut contract between my manufacturer, I tend to have the big loss. I have to pay the consumers, and also tend to I have to pay the final consumer, which is a big loss to my ends because I've already paid the manufacturers for so product to be released, and it's not released. You get, and that's also has tends to affect my business in fashion business and law. Now, contracts or red flags in contracts. Now, these are for consumers. If you are interested in a particular product, let me see, a makeup. Let me see, for the females, yes, they tend to deal with makeup. You get, and you not just makeup, wigs, and you tend to meet a let me say a seller or a wholesaler. You get, or the brand owner who will tell you there's no refunds, that you have to pay 100%, and delivery is whenever possible, and there's no responsibility for errors. You get, then I will advise you that you shouldn't enter a clear contract with such person, because if you enter a clear contract with such person, that person generally has will not lose at any point, because you might end up not liking the product and you want to return it to such person. You get, and you might not be able to, because of this person has already had clauses, a lot of clauses. You get, and those clauses too in recent, if you check the Consumers Act, I think my section, I'm not clear about the section, but let me say section 38 or is it 48? We states that any persons who held no refund policy, sorry, we states no refund policy is illegal. You get, because for generally what does the business do?
Michael,
Services. Sorry.
let's make please at this point, please, you have about 2 minutes more, please. If you don't mind rounding off.
Okay,
Thank
okay,
you.
okay. I will round up quickly. So, no refund policy in Nigeria is held illegal. You get, if you don't have, sorry, if a business doesn't provide services, or maybe services are poor, and because you want to return, or sorry, you want to return such products, and the person is telling you that there's no refund policy, then that sorry, you can easily take that person to court, or you can have a claim to reclaim your money back from such person, because in Nigeria, no refund policies are illegal. Okay, I've talked about this. Your contract should have time, money, quality, ownership, and reputation. Yes, that's what your business should have. You should also have clear policies, and should also have clauses that helps to protect you in your business. Okay. Sorry, let me try trace back a bit. Yes, so the e-commerce slash customers disputes. We have talked about no refund policies. We have talked about contracts. You get. We have not talked about proof system. We have not talked about trade branding. Yes, because in fashion business law, one very important aspect to note is your trade brand, because you have to have a let me see, you have to have how was this word? Let me see, sorry, if you're in the fashion line, let me say clothing to be specific, you have to have let me see, there's this word for it. Is it cover, or is it what? Packaging, yes, packaging, how you package your product, those falls under trade branding. You get, and if you don't have that, then I don't think you should be able to stand as a fashion. I'm sorry, you need to stand as someone who is in to fashion business and law. Um, Now, in clear sense, what basically I focused on, because I'm about rounding up, is the issue of contract in fashion business law, which is a very big issue to date. And if you don't have a clear contract in fashion business law, then you tend to lose. And also, I talked about refund policy. Refund policy is very essential, because as a fashion business, as a business person, you should have this in mind, that you must have a refund policy, because not everybody will be satisfied with your product. And there's also a way to protect yourself from not refunding totally in business, because you have to look at, okay, you delivered social product to this person, and because of the person is satisfied, the person is coming back to you to get a refund. Now, in such cases, I don't think you are entitled to refund such person, because you provided the services and you provided exactly what the person wants. But because the person is unsatisfied with that, then I don't think you have to refund in such cases, because anybody can come for a refund. And if you don't have backings, if you don't have let me see, a receipt, an invoice, or anything about your fashion, your brand, then you will lose. Now, it's very important for you to note that you must have an identity in fashion business law. You must have a trademark. It's not just only about registering. The registering part, yes, is a major aspect, but if you don't trademark your brand, then it falls into the category of easily being stolen, and you lose everything, because another person can just easily come and trademark your brand, and you'll be complaining, and because you register this, you register that, you're meant to have full ownership. But in reality, Nigeria has made us to know that it's not just only about registering your brand, it's also about trademarking it, because without trademark, without a good identity, without an identity, you can't be able to perform commerce, you can't be able to earn, you can't be able to trade in general sense. So I will advise everybody or anybody who is in the fashion line, who is not just only in the fashion line, in business in general, to always have in mind that it's not just about registering, it's also about trademarking your business so that you will not fall into thefts. It's very essential to note. And in situation where many producers or are involved in a particular let me say particular product, or where this designs this one produce, this one sells and stuff, contract comes in. Now if you don't have a clear contract, then like you said, like you rightly said, within that AI situation, then that entirely defeats everything. Nobody has any claim to it. You get, because you might have the idea, but because you're not able to produce that idea, you share it to different places. Then you have to have contract. You need to have contract to clearly state that okay, you did this, you did that, you contributed to this, but you are not the real one. You don't have true ownership to this. You get. And I don't know how I don't know if I've eaten enough into your time, but I think I will end here, and I would like to bow my head and say thank you for this session.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Michael. Thank you so much. When it comes to the fashion business of law, there's a whole lot to be said, and I believe we have some minutes left to spare in this session. And at this point, I want to open up to our mentors. We have some questions we're going to be having from our mentees. Mentees, remember last session we agreed that your questions must come on time. So please, if you have questions, kindly type them in the chat box now. I will only take 2 live questions. The rest I'll read from the chat box. And as much as I can take before our time runs out, I will take them. So please, if you have questions, kindly type them in the chat box. Or if you want it to be a live question, just put the raising of hand emoji, and I'll know you want to give a live question. Do not forget, the earlier you get those questions out, the earlier I can call you to take on your questions. If you keep them for the last minute, I'm sorry, due to time, we would not take them. This is a recorded session, and as such, our time is very, very crucial. Okay, I want to go back to Miss Bernice. You've heard from our mentees, you've listened to them. I want your feedback on their presentation as well as more insights. Are there things you want to throw more light on? Are there things you want to speak on? Are there things you want to expatiate to make them understand better? So please, ma'am, the floor is yours once again for more, basically. Okay. I don't know. I think Miss Bernice is no longer here. Please, Miss Dennis, do you mind checking it out for me? I think I see one of her handles here, but I can't see the one with which she actually made her presentation. So if you don't mind checking that out for us. Okay, so while you're doing that, I'll come back to Mr. Michael. Mr. Michael, I know during your presentation you spoke a lot about their presentations, but now I want to give your thoughts and feedback on these presentations, and then if there are things you want to throw more light before we take questions. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. I think the first presentation I was cut short with because of I had to switch systems. But the second presentation, yes, I actually had to pick some things from them. You get, I think their presentation was detailed, but because of lack of time, they were not hitting it. They were not sorry. They could not define some terms out for us, and I know because of time they were not able to do that. And their presentation, what I saw from their slides was actually like very commendable because they had some clear terms there, but they could not just define it for everyone here. Then what I will add is that you have to put in mind that that fashion is not just only basically clothing, it's not just basically um modeling, it's not just basically let me see aesthetics. Like the first speaker said, it's all about culture. If we go back to our roots, we can check we can see that there are certain habits, there are certain norms that involves that brings out culture, that brings out fashion. The beauty of culture is the fashion you get, and you have to protect it. And how do you do so? You have to trademark it, not just only trademark you get. We have lost many of our culture to colonization, and because of we don't have a full right claim to get back such things, then they are still withheld. They are still in the custody of our colonizers. You get, and they are being traded. You get, it was something that we can easily protect, but because we are not able to protect them, we're not able to have. Well, we don't have true identity, or we don't have true ownership of them. We're not able to protect them, and because of that, we can see how especially the Benin culture, we can see how their artifacts are being hosted in another man's land, and which is a big problem for us because I think there was a particular time I was going through an article about the stolen artifacts of Nigeria, especially the Benin culture, where the person stated rightly that this belongs to Nigeria. Because of colonization, this was shifted out of the country, and till today it is not being returned. And we can also see, I think there was an instance where I saw where I don't know, I think it's the US Congress or something, where they were rightly stating that any artifact that was sorry, that were held during the colonial period should be returned back to Nigeria. And to date, it's not yet returned, you get, and they are being hosted out for other people to see. You get, if we are not able to preserve our identity, then it's a big problem, because without identity, you don't have a voice, and without a voice, there's no identity. It cannot work. It cannot work separately. It has to work hand in hand. You get, okay. When the product label to a fashion item says made in Nigeria, meanwhile the brand sources and imports is material like fabric, processed cotton or leather. Okay, Mr. Mukhtar, I've seen your question. I don't know if I'm allowed to answer it, the moderator.
Okay, no, not yet though. We'll come back to questions. I just want them to have them there. So once it's time for questions, we'll just hit them all of them at the same time.
Okay. Okay, so basically, I'm just talking about you have to preserve your identity, because for you to preserve, if once you preserve it, you definitely have a voice. You have a bigger hand in your business. You have a bigger hand in the society at large. You get, and in the economy. It's very important to note that if you're having a business, you're also contributing to the economy. So you have to ensure you preserve your identity. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Michael. Thank you so much. Identity is everything. One issue we've had in our country is the fact that we easily lose our identity. We forget the fact that identity is carried on, not just in print, also expression. It's very important. And I thank God over time, our creatives here are beginning to understand that fact. Even in our types of contracts, there are things that the Westerners would not really put in their own contracts because it does not really apply to them based on their identity that we need to look out for here. I know that for those also in the IP space, you would see things that relate to geographical indications, traditional cultural artifacts, and all that. The TKs and the rest, traditional knowledge, and all that, and how they also apply to the fashion business. So I agree with that. Fashion culture is one thing that has a really big impact in our fashion business, especially here in Nigeria. I think around the world. So if we Nigerians would know how, we Africans, because it's an African um, um, mentorship program, if we Africans know how to inculcate our culture into everything, it becomes better for us and we enjoy the fashion business even more. Okay, I think we have Miss Bernice back with us. Hello, ma'am. Are you back with us now?
Yes, I am.
Okay, thank you. Welcome back. I was asking for you to give your feedback on the mentees presentation, as well as throw more light on things you want to speak on, especially on generally, before we go into the question and answer session.
Oh, okay. I think that all of the presentations were great. Just like I think we always say on the call, you can see how long it is. It's the same thing in practice where there's just so many things to talk about. There's just so many aspects of fashion law, right? What you guys have done is the commercial aspect of fashion, the business of fashion. There's a fashion retailing. That's what you guys have talked about, and it is more than just all of the information you shared, right? In understanding it better, I think that, and again, that I think this is because of the lack of information that is online about the kind of transactions that happen here in Nigeria and across Africa, really. So for example, when you talk about types of contracts, and I saw a lot of contract listed, but I think that there are specific contracts that are still very much important, like consignment contracts, vendor contract. Those are very important contracts because it happens. Those kind of transactions happen here. You have stores who are pulling in designers, to keep in their product to sell on their behalf. There's a lot of consignment and vendor agreement that happens very much. Our designers are signing that agreement almost very frequently. There's also the issue of employment law that we don't talk about too. When you talk about contracts, IP ownership is very important. How you balance the various interests that happens when a product of a fashion product is produced basically is important. A lot of employment contracts are very, very basic. We forget that in the fashion industry, a lot of people are still very much independent. They're not exactly employees. They are not they are freelancing. So there is a lot of interest that you have to balance when you're sending out contracts. So yeah, just like the way you've seen all of the presentation, they were all wonderful, but you have to see it from the landscape of what exactly is really happening, and those you would not find online. That information you would not find everywhere else. You have to look at the fashion businesses that we have, the creative businesses that we have, and then look at how they are managing those relationships. Of course, from the Jarvis case, which I think is a very similar thing, is also similar to the one that happened with Nana and Olivia, right? You can see that there is poor understanding of contract. In fact, you see a lot of creative. I don't even pity them anymore because they have this money to employ lawyers to advise, but I don't know how they don't take their brand very seriously, so it's a lot of things, really, right? So you have to look at the system. You have to look at what's happening, the activities, and then see how that you can understand it, because a lot of unique things happen right now. Say for instance, I was talking about employment. There's a very key thing that happened in employment. I mentioned that they are all freelancing, but you see that sometimes you would see in the fashion industry that somebody can be a creative director of their own brand, and they are also creative director of under a different brand, and they are allowed to do those things. How do you create a balance between the creativity that is developed under a particular brand and how they don't copy it for their own personal benefits? You will draft a lot of contracts and try to balance the IPs, right, of various people, because everybody wants to own something. Everybody wants to own a part of that product. So that's one of the things you'll be doing: balancing of IP, balancing of various interests. If you're splitting it, and those are things, like I said, that you don't find online. You have to really understand how these transactions happen, really, and yeah, improve your knowledge on it. So yes, I think that all of the presentation was great. So I'll just wait for questions and then I'll shed more light on it.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. So I'll start with the first question, and I think I've heard both speakers, actually both mentors, actually put in a little bit about that. I believe this question can bring it on as we move on to the next question. I know it's a live case, and basically lawyers might not want to speak much, but I think for the sake of for recording purposes, this is for educational purposes at this point, to understand what the courts will look at in understanding ownership. Now that's back to the Jarvis case, looking at the fact that we're having issues of ownership from the designer who had the illustration to the tailor who actually made the outfit. And now to Jarvis, who paid for the outfit. So now, mentors, I know it's still an ongoing case, I believe. So we can have a complete resolution on it until the court says otherwise, if it's before the court yet. But then looking at the ingredients with which the law will look at ownership in IP, especially in the fashion business. What's our take on that particular matter before going to our next question? So, Ms.
Okay.
Bonita, I think I can start with you because I know you have inside scoop on that particular discussion.
Okay. I have to say that, to be honest, I don't follow these people as much. Like I mentioned before, I think that um I still can't, I still don't understand Nigerian celebrities and celebrities in general. Like y- it's a lot of things, right? Because I genuinely think that when you are a growing brand, you need to understand that you are exposed to a lot of risk and you need legal counsel on a lot of things. But somehow, I don't know, I don't understand the culture that we have where we don't understand that certain things have implication. And yes, the ordinary person can decide to overlook those things. But as a brand that is growing, you want to be very conscious about the things that you wear, where it comes from and things like that. Even I, as a fashion lawyer, I say this and I tell my team and I tell my colleagues, and a lot of people in the fashion industry know this, right? I mean, also, I have to say that fashion industry players are quite different from the audience and the entertainers, right? I'm even very careful of the things that I wear. They're like things that I don't do. I don't wear Ankara. I don't wear certain clothes because I now understand the implication of what it is. I understand that Ankara is not exactly African fabric, right? I understand that, oh, okay, if I'm going to the market, these are things that I don't pick. But what I'm trying to say is that all of these issues happen because of the lack of legal consciousness. People are not there and maybe they do it but they don't really care, right? But back to the case, because I've seen this ownership thing happen a lot. There are many cases that I've been on and it's the same thing. And I think that a different view is understanding copyright law, industrial design law, and whatever, right? A lot of people in my opening slide, anytime I want to also present on ownership, I always draw the line between a tailor, a designer, somebody who thinks about the IP and illustrators. Because a tailor might be controversial, but a tailor, many times in the African parlance, is somebody that just constructs the dress and might not exactly be entitled to intellectual property rights. They might be entitled to labor rights, credits for manpower, but they might not necessarily be the developer of that intellectual property. Because think about it, copyright law says that when a design is, you think about it and it's original and you put it in a fixed medium, right? It enjoys copyright. Now, what's fixed medium? So I think about a design and then I illustrate it. It's already in a fixed medium and copyright is already complete. Copyright is already complete. So any other person trying to now bring it to life itself, although I know that there's a place for contract, because again, I know that I have seen cases where the person who is sewing or making that dress is making some variation and modification. So yes, you might have drawn a very straight dress, but from my experience, I don't really think that fabric would work. I most likely think another fabric would work. So I use my expertise to also execute. There are arguments that okay, but the truth about it is that many times you see that some tailors are only just expanding their labor rights to execute that idea. And it can be argued, and this is my personal opinion, right? And copyright is already complete when it is illustrated. So it might be a thing that you might say, oh, copyright is already complete. I already own this dress. You are owned. Because if you think about it, that means that everybody would have copyrights. Everybody, especially in the fashion industry, I think about a particular thing. I come up with my tech pack and it's ready. And I protect that tech pack and everything else. And I take it to my manufacturers. And my manufacturers are claiming IP over the tech pack that I designed, that I've protected and all of that. Yes, that's why I said a contract can also help with that. So it can be argued. We are lawyers. We know how that we can turn these things. I know that many times when we have these ownership things for tailors, people would say they expended their creative skill to, and that caused a modification. I know I have argued for tailors like that, but many times I actually really think that from a designer perspective, or from an illustrator perspective, because there are many interests to be protected. From an illustrator perspective, so for somebody who has designed it already, that's me assuming that they finished the dress online, they've made it a 3D design and it's complete. That copyright is already there. Now, maybe you start thinking about the fact that they want to replicate, and you're like, oh, the person added some. But really, that can be argued, right? Everybody might have, but that's why we need contracts to sort of make these things very clear. People don't understand it and it's subject to different opinions. So you can say that, oh, the tailor doesn't really have anything. Maybe we can give her credit for her expanding her labor, right? But when it comes to intellectual property, if you understand what it is to fix something in a particular medium, can be argued, like I said. For me, once you create it and you put it, because again, if you say that they only enjoy IP rights when they sold the dress physically, then it's going to exclude fashion illustrators from enjoying any copyright whatsoever. And it's just me looking at it very technically, right? But a contract can actually solve all of these problems to balance all of this, right? And say, oh, you get this, you get credits, you get whatever. And then there's also the very fact that stylists are coming up in the scene. They are not exactly making the dress, but they are giving some sort of creative direction. And it's still debatable, right? It's still debatable that, oh, they're not the ones sewing the dress, but they come up with the way that it looks. That creative direction, that aesthetic is still not, I don't know whether there's any law on it per se, but it's again, it's still more of manpower than intellectual property, as it were. So again, a contract can help with protecting all of these things, balancing what they really want, because sometimes somebody might not even want money or IP, they might just really want recognition for their own portion of contribution. So it really depends, honestly.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Sincerely, I had an argument with a colleague on this before, and we're towing around the same line, because the argument was basically, if the illustrator has brought an idea into a fixed medium and then copyright automatically originates, what then does the tailor have? So it was the back and forth. And I like the fact that you kept on hitting on that contracts could explain all of this. And this is why, mentees, you need to understand the fashion business, about the law related to the fashion business, because it's our job to explain this to clients as they come. Because in the long run, as most of these issues keep coming up, clients would need our expertise to understand it better. Nigeria has been alien for years to things like, because over time, most people did not really care. But I hear clients recently speaking so much about IP. So that says that, let us know that our voices have been heard. They are getting the fact that there's something called IP. It's now our job to make them understand this better and then get paid in the process. Okay, Ms. Burns, I see your hand back up.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that it's really not alien, right? Because I know that Jarvis came, but I'm mentioning that there was this similar issue with Nana that happened during the AMVCA. Yes, that's what happened. Similar things where she thought about her design. She got the products from China, she sourced everything and just told her to come and put them together. And then she claimed then Olivia, on the other hand, said, oh, she was one who designed and all of that. There was even a matter on Twitter, similarly to, somebody commissioned a dress, and that's another angle. Somebody commissioned a dress. She's a designer herself. She gave it to somebody else to make the dress, and the person was sort of like adding money to it. Later, they were now saying, who owns it? I came up with the design. She communicated the design. So there will now be conversations around collaboration, co-authorship, and what's the other word? Combination or something like that. But co-authorship and collaboration. What's the difference? How do you distinguish it? So it's not something that is new. It's just that a lot of times when somebody very popular enters into a problem, it now becomes very public. But I can tell you for a fact that there are many cases. This one went on Twitter for a very, very long time, right? So it's a thing that you have to pay attention to and understand that there are really no cases. All of these things too is there's no right or wrong. Today I'm saying it's collaboration. Tomorrow, if it's my client again, I'm going to say it's co-authorship. Really depends on what the facts are of the case and who you are really representing. So there's no right or wrong. There's no definite answer to say, oh, this is what is correct, right? Because it's still up to the court to look at the merits of the case. But really, it's you just deciding that, oh, this is how you're going to understand it, or this is how I'm going to understand it. When you are presenting to your client, you have to give them all of these options, and they have to understand the legal implications of it. And contract really helps to silence all of these things.
Thank you so much. Mr. Michael, of course, I'm coming to you. Thank you so much, Bernice. Mr. Michael, let's hear your take on this. Mentees, this is what makes Gypsy amazing. We give you real life topics, and then we'll let you get the knowledge hands on. Mr. Michael, over to you, please.
Okay, like what Miss Bernice said, yes, your contract really matters, but I want to highlight something because in this scenario of Jarvis, the manufacturer, and the designer, he gets that is the designer versus the manufacturer versus Jarvis, who really owns the dress. Now, in IP, there's something called split ownership, and this split ownership only can be clarified in the contract. You get now if is in the contract that the designer designs the dress while the manufacturer brings out the dress, then okay, yes, we know that they all have claims, right? Claims to who owns the dress. But now in the situation where Jarvis now who buys the dress and is claiming ownership, you get there's something they say in land law, if I can remember. There's a principle in land law that possession is not ownership, but is in title. That is that means for someone to claim ownership, you have to present the title of it. You get now in this scenario between Jarvis, you get I will say, or I rightly say that the copyright rightly belongs to the designer, because the designer sat down and was able to see look at this and bring out the design for this clothes. And I will, if I'm looking at as a judge, I will say okay, the copyright, like I said, split ownership, copyright should belong to the designer. Now, in the case of Jarvis, who buys the dress, yes, she paid for it, so there's clear contractual dealings there that okay, she bought the dress, so clearly she owns the dress. Now, the question is, who actually owns the dress? That is the big question, which is yet to be answered. But on the but looking at it with in the contract aspect, if the contract is, like I said, if the contract has specific clauses, if the contract is clear, then the issue of ownership shouldn't arise. You get, but in this instance now, we cannot just only say one person owns the dress. We have to say the dress is owned by a collective. You get, and in this case, I will rightly say that the dress is owned by the dress is not owned by any of them. They have split ownership if it comes to claiming rights over the dress. Jarvis owns the dress. She has possession of the dress. So clearly she owns the dress. Um, but copyright doesn't belong to Jarvis. Copyright belongs to the designer, because the designer brought out the design for that for the dress. So copyright should reside with the designer. Then as for the manufacturer, I wouldn't clearly state, because I don't see where the manufacturer comes in, because his own was just to pull out the dress. You get, so I think what the designer is entitled to is settlement. You get, so that is basically what I feel about the Jarvis case. Thank you.
Okay. So I'll let Jarvis go to rest now, so we can take other topics, other questions. I think we have one question in the chat box. Our time is fast spent, but guess what? That's what happens when you're having a great time. Edith Woodward, your hand is up. I'm up late. I'm sorry. I might come back to you, but we need to go to the question in the chat box and ask that if you had live questions. I wanted them earlier. If you do not mind typing your question for now, so that while we're handling this, our mentors could be going through your question. It will be easier for us, please, because we have one question here. I think it could be a short answer, but if we have more time, I'll come back to you, please. So mentors, there's a question by Rashid in the chat box, and it reads, when a product label is fashion item, when a product label to a fashion item rather says made in Nigeria, meanwhile, the brand sources The brand sources and imports its materials like fabrics, processed cotton, and or leather, printed labels from outside Nigeria, say from Turkey, from India, from China, but only have it assembled and only has it rather assembled and packaged in Nigeria. Is that legally right or deceit? I'll go through again. A product label, a product had labeled the product, a fashion brand labeled their product made in Nigeria. Meanwhile, they have sourced all their fabrics from places like Turkey, India, China, everything outside the country, from cotton to leathers, fabrics, and everything. Is it legal to call it made in Nigeria, or is that deceit? What do we think? Mr. Michael, I think I'll start with you on that. Do you think it's been deceitful? Vicky James went to Turkey and she got her Chantilly laces. Will she put made in Turkey?
Okay, there's something called the substantial transformation rule. You get where this is gotten from here and is gotten from here, but it's coupled, or let me say, is assembled in the country. Now, okay, I think the person is mistaking is clearly trying to say whether it's deceitful, that is in the part of counterfeit goods, or it's not. Well, generally in commerce, you get not everything, like a particular like trading. How trade started was exchange for this. I have this, I have that. You get now in this scenario, you get your country, or let me say your government, pays or buys from another country and imports it, you get, and couples it in this country. Now, let me highlight the fact that you stated in your question that it was assembled and packaged in Nigeria. So that's where the substantial transformation rule comes in. You get, if it is not let me say, if it's not assembled or packaged in Nigeria, then we can clearly state that it is wrong, is deceitful, you get. But the fact that it was assembled and packaged, yes, I can clearly state that, I can clearly say, yes, is legally right, because what this substantial transformation rule states is any product or anything that is so sourced from different country and assembled in your particular country, then is right for you to state that yes, you have that such product was made in Nigeria, because a product, for you to define a product, you get, for you to define a complete product, you have to say that yes, you own it, you get. But in this scenario, you get, it were the materials that were sourced, you get, not the product that was sourced. The materials were imported, and when it was imported back to Nigeria, it was coupled, which made it a whole product. And clearly, we can clearly agree or say that yes, it's legally right to say made in Nigeria, because the product was coupled and assembled in Nigeria. So the substantial transformation rule applies there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. We have one question that was sent beforehand. I don't know if Ms. Bernice wants to add anything to the last question, so I'll just send the next question, and probably won't add anything to the last question. We go ahead, but this is a question I think that falls in your forte. This next question, Mr. Rashid, I see your hand. Our time is fast spent. I don't take as much questions as I can. That's why I said make sure you hit those questions from the beginning. I know, yes, conversations bring new questions, but for now, let's go to one that was sent before the class. The question reads, man, what practical steps should a new fashion designer take to legally protect their brand and designs when starting a fashion business? So someone wants to start a fashion business. What practical steps do you think that designer should take to legally protect their brand and their designs while starting the fashion business in Africa, especially Nigeria?
I want to presume that the person that is asking this question is a fashion designer. If you're not, then I know that if we're all lawyers on this call, the practical steps basically is registration of your business, prioritizing of your trademark, because trademark is the most important IP right that you can have as a brand, and then your industrial design, very important. Then if you can also, layer that with copyright law, that's also wonderful. And then having contracts in place. These are the things that they have to think about. And contract, like we've mentioned, and with the previous speaker's presentation, is a lot, right? I like to say that contracts are a way to predict and protect the future. So you see all these Javis issue, to avoid it, have contracts. Have contracts for everything. Anybody dealing with your business, have contracts for it. Then your trademark, very important. I have brands who have a lot of following, very popular. They don't even have trademark. And it will shock you. And I think that even as lawyers, maybe you should be running search on some popular brands. Some popular brands that you have, international brands, they are registered in Nigeria since 1996, 2007, 19 whatever. They have registrations already. So fashion brands, should be encouraged to register their brands across classes, understand all the various classes, because most of them, in my presentation, I mentioned LVMH, they have different classes in different product category. So you should look at the product category and make sure that they are registered across board. There are many brands that have registered trademark, but they're not registered under the most relevant brand to their business. People tend to think that it's class 25 for fashion brand, but if you're dealing with a leather brand, you know that that's a different class entirely, not just class 25. So you have to think about the classes of trademark and everything else. Industrial design, I don't know why. I know that a lot of lawyers tend to discourage people from doing that, maybe because they don't know how to do, but industrial design is important. The same thing with copyright. Surface patterns, all of those things can be copyrighted. Yeah, those are things that you have to think about when you are starting your business. Now, to add to the initial question that was asked, when I was doing my presentation, one of the things that I forgot to mention was that once you want to be a fashion lawyer, you have to think about international trade laws. You have to understand international trade laws. Very, very important, because fashion goods are constantly moving place to place. Now, you also have to understand two rules there's what they call the rules of origin. For you to qualify to say that you are made in a particular country, there are two contexts, right? 100% you sourced all your materials from that particular country, and it is made in that country from start to finish. 100% you can say you're made in Nigeria, right? Then when it is 60%, so you source your product from different places. However, the value add when you bring the raw materials into that particular country is valued around 60%. So you employed Nigerian staff, you used during coupling, you use them you have a Nigerian property, you have Nigerian things. So the value add on that product is probably up to 60%, right? It varies, but that's basically the standard. You must prove that for you to say it was made in Nigeria, like the previous speaker mentioned, the substantial transformation has to be a lot. You have to prove that there are value adds on that particular raw materials. Now, the reason why rules of origin is important is because when you want to export that product to a different country to enjoy preferential treatment, they tend to ask you, did you make it in Nigeria, or is it just Chinese men coming to Nigeria to manufacture, and then they say it's made in Nigeria because they want to enjoy free shipping. Let me just say free shipping, free tariff. So Nigeria has, because we are a developing country, we have entered into treaties with a lot of countries. With Europe, there's what they call the Africa Great Opportunity Act, right? We have free tariffs exporting to America. So for you to enjoy that, you have to have, you have to understand the rules of origin. And then obviously when you understand that, that it's 100% or 60%, whichever one that you fall under, but you have to sufficiently transform that product in that particular country so that you can actually export it. It's usually when it comes to exportation that made in Nigeria thing is important. But again, it's fraud when you lie, because when you are exporting, there's also what they call transparency of your value chain. And it's very important, especially when you're going to Europe. They have to know how exactly you got this product. What are the process? What's your process looking like? And that's where you have sustainability rules. You can go and read after this course. Europe is one of the most regulating continents that you have. They have a lot of rules, and Nigerian and African designers export to Europe a lot, right? So when you're exporting, there are a lot of things you have to think, and that one of the things is transparency. You have to show that you did not kill anybody, you're not using animals, you're not killing animals. Animal law, very, very important also in fashion, right? People that do leather and they go and kill. I know a lot of fashion weeks that have banned, using animal cruelty. So those are things that you have to think about, right? So I hope that answers that question. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much, ma'am. We have So there are about 3 questions in the chat box. Our time is fast spent. Mr. Dennis, is it possible for us to take those questions? And also, I want to ask our mentors, are they open to us taking those questions due to time? Mr. Dennis, please, I would like your feedback on that before I carry on.
Okay, so I think I want to leave that to the mentors if they are willing to answer them, but I think we can still take them.
Okay, so now our mentors, I've asked management and they said I should pose it back to you. We have 3 questions in the chat box, and if you open, you can actually read through them. I know that there's a kind of correlation between the both of them, or between 2 of them, basically. Is this something we could look into? Basically, they're looking at cultural identities when it comes to fashion. And truthfully, I know earlier I said you are speaking about culture. I said there are things we have in our culture, cultural identifications, and all that traditional knowledge that flows into fashion. So I don't know, can we go through these questions and probably briefly attend to them? Because it's something that's affecting our fashion space all over again. So mentors, if it's you, it's something we can take.
Okay, I'm just trying to read through it, and I think that they are saying the same thing, really.
Yes.
They're talking about culture. I remember I told you that like there's a lot of arguments about the fact that the IP regimes that we have are not exact. They are very individualistic in nature. That's they're talking about one culture, and it's not talking about a collective. There's a question. I think maybe you should also read this article written by Susan Scafidi. She wrote about it. Who owns culture, right? So the truth about it is that a lot of people have found a system to benefit off of the culture. So they have, when you want to use their culture, you sort of like, it's as basic as saying, oh, you want to take from this particular people, there's a registry you go to get, license. A lot of people have done that. I probably think in one of these Asian countries, probably India, they found a way to document what their culture is, right? So when you want to use it, you most likely have to get permission or things like that. But we don't have that in Africa. We've not yet sat down. I think the Maasai people have done something like that. But like as Nigerians, right, we've not exactly sat down to say, oh, this is very important. How do we document? So it's difficult to say, oh, yes, we know it's a group of people that owns culture, but now how do we identify? So we have the homework to do to sit down to say that this is what the culture of a particular people is, and this is going to be the instrument where they benefit from. In the entertainment industry, they've been able to do that with collective CMOs, right? They've been able to say, oh, this person will be collecting IP on behalf of people and then they'll distribute it and things like that. In the fashion industry too, like I said, is developing, and that's one of the reasons why you would look at it as fashion policy, not even fashion law, because fashion law is mature. Fashion policy is still at the foundation stage where you're building. So they will ask you, how do we manage it? And I tell you, this is something that is on the table of a lot of the fashion association that you have, and fashion councils, and also the government. We have right now that Chinese are replicating Ashoke. They are making Ashoke, right? So it's a lot of crazy things. So we have the work to do to document so that we can have a system that they benefit. I know that there's also a WIPO system that says, oh, you have to recognize them even when you are advertising, even when you're a lawyer to a brand, because now I know that we like to think about appropriation as an international brand looking at a foreign or developing country and picking up their culture. That exists. But I can tell you for a fact too that there is also commercialization of cultures by Africans themselves. So you have Yoruba people setting up whatever businesses and selling Igbo fabric or the equated fabric, and you're like, why is it that they are commercializing it? You see designers to, using that fabric to come up with collection, but how are they giving back, right? So we even have internal conflict as regards cultural products. So it's for us to really sit down to say that this is how we are going to be governed. That is lacking, and that's why we continually ask the question of how do we do it. The thing is, we have to set up a registry. We have to document what the culture is, what community owns what, and then what is going to be the strategy of taking back and giving back to them. That currently doesn't exist, and that's why we have this problem where we have not even also crossed the hurdle of having our geographical indication laws being set. Just recently we had Ghana make their, what's that thing called, their kente fabric a geographical indication product, which is really great, but it really doesn't really even stop anybody from copying the material. It just recognizes that they are the source. But how it is going to be enforced, again, is still on the government policies. It's still on them trying to put in tariffs that stop people from actually, commercializing these things, or stop people from, will I say, infringing on them, because commercialization cannot exactly be stopped. So really and truly, it's us just sitting down to advocate for the system that we want to protect the culture. And that's why I said you have to look at it from an Afrocentric approach. How do we do it? Setting up a registry, documenting is important. I also liken this thing to Afrobeat. Every single time that there is is it Grammy now? And they give maybe Afrobeat awards to somebody who is not an Afrobeat artist, people come out to talk about the fact that, oh, she's not even an Afrobeat artist. But have we done the work of documenting what qualifies as Afrobeat so that they can actually follow? So the truth about it is that as Africans, we like to complain that somebody is stealing, but I don't think we've done the work to document and create a system that the world can follow. And we can say, but now, because if you say, oh, they are copying us, okay, what do we do about it? It's like international law where you can say, oh, don't copy and all of that, don't do XYZ. But again, how is enforcement looking like? Right. So it's really up to us to have a system in place for those things. Yeah, I think that's my 2 cents on culture. I think it really answers this question. I think that the other speaker might have something to add.
Okay, thank you so much, Ben. Mr. Michael, over to you. Let's get your take on the questions, or we call it a day.
Yeah, so I don't have anything distinctive from Ms. Bernice, but I totally agree with her. But I would just clearly state, okay, like what she stated, you get, we have not put in efforts to legally enforce is it laws? Yes, laws that helps to protect our cultural identity. And let's not forget that on that property, you get culture on its own is something that you keep doing over years, then it becomes part of you. And many cultures cannot clearly state where this is originated from. And on that property, one of the essential principle is for you to have ownership when it comes to culture. You have to trace the origin. You get, and if those origin are not documented, or are not or you don't have something that can show, yes, that this actually belongs to you, then how do we protect, how do you even protect yourself? You get, that's a big question. You get, so what Miss Bernie said clearly is clearly highlighted that yes, we don't have a legal structure. We are trying to have a legal structure because right in the the modern world of Nigeria now, like this is where the intellectual property is coming in. And also, let's not forget the WIPO, the World International Property Organization. You get, because now like this what the WIPO is trying to do to help culture, to preserve culture. Yes, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to find a way to preserve culture, and where such cultural emblems are being protected. You get, cultural identity are being protected. You get, but now the question you clearly stated, and the Louis Vuitton and this thing, they have been using it for years, and because we have not yet come out to say this, yes, is morally wrong. You get, but in your real sense, if in the eyes of the law, is it wrong? You get, that's the question. The major question is, in the eye of the law, is it wrong? Let's not just look at just morals. You get, morals doesn't at most times it doesn't help out. It doesn't. So what helps out is the legal structure that has been produced, that has been laid down to help to protect such cultural emblems. In Nigeria, we cannot say yes, we have had a legal structure that has helped to protect our and preserve our culture. We are just starting it. You get, we are just at the beginning of trying to help to preserve our culture. And that's why brands like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, and the remaining can easily just pick up. It's not only just Nigeria, it's Africa. You get, we are far behind, lacking in terms of providing a legal structure that can help preserve our cultural emblems, and also preserve it from being used by foreign brands or foreigners. You get, which is the problem here, because without a structure, without a structure that helps to preserve it, then what are we actually preserving in the first place? You get, and that's why brands like Louis Vuitton and the remaining can easily copy such cultural emblems, basically. So I'm not go- and what I'm saying is not far-fetched from Ms. Bernice. Yes, I totally agree with her, and we need to have a well defined legal structure that preserves our culture, not just only preserve it, that can document our cultural emblems, and that can help to protect it in international world space. I hope I've answered that question.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. I think that's the best we can take on today's session. We've really stretched the time. Thanks to our mentors. Mentees, check the chat box. You will see Ms. Burns has dropped something. Read up Swan protocol on Swan protocol on the position of traditional knowledge and expressions of folklore. So I was going to say this as I wrap up today's session. One thing about this particular program is the fact that we allow you to express yourselves in writings or in videos. Now, it doesn't just make you express what you've learned, it also puts you out there. Yes, some of the things that I wrote during my time as a mentee in the Gypsy program, it got me some level of relationship with some experts in those fields. So I'll give this advice. Mentees, read up this particular protocol, then read up as much as you can on geographical indications, traditional knowledge, traditional cultural expressions, and see how these can be protected. I believe that is the starting point in understanding what needs to be protected in our country. We have a lot of things that can be protected. They are basically, if most of our acquaintances, our Isiagu and the rest of them are particularly given their requisite GIs, and of course, following all the particular things that flow with them. Imagine Adire and traditional knowledge that comes with making Adire, and then we protect all this. If someone like China, India, even Louis Vuitton wants to replicate such, you could actually bring up an action against them, because those particular things they were doing without the requisite license from places that these indicators probably have been registered. So make your research on GIs, read this protocol, get more knowledge. That write-up you might do might be the legal framework for what Nigeria needs for tomorrow. And guess what? One thing I like about our people here, if you put that knowledge out there, you will get the publicity you're looking for, especially on LinkedIn, where you have professionals. Post on LinkedIn, post on IG, places where you actually get this out there. So please, mentees, start working. Here at Gypsy, mentees are not lazy at all. Once we get the knowledge, once we get the idea, we start researching, we start working on it. And I wish you a great job at doing your research. At this point, I want to say a big thank you to all to our mentors for today. Phenomenal job. When it comes to fashion, we can never exhaust what the law says in the fashion business. Thank you so much for doing an impeccable job of explaining. I think that there's still so much more, but our time would not allow us. Thank you so much to Ms. Bernice. Thank you so much to Mr. Michael for your time. And of course, to our mentees who stayed up to this time, thank you so much for joining this program. This is week 3, so think of what's yet to come. A lot. Trust me, you're going to be blown away. Do not forget, take on to LinkedIn, take on to IG, take on to Facebook, wherever you feel most comfortable putting out this particular knowledge. Do that. Thank you one more time to Gypsy. My name is Goslav Kamaloni. It's been an absolute pleasure moderating today's session. Until next week. Okay, yes, please, mentors, they're asking for your handles. If you if you do not mind, please drop your handles. I know that for Miss Bernice, just check Legally Savvy on IG, and you'll easily find her. Mr. Michael, I tried searching you on IG. I did not see. I know I saw your page, but please, if there's one we can get more on you, I think you might have on this thing. Hello, Mr. Dennis, you're about saying something, please.
Okay, I just wanted to remind us of our pictures quickly before we go.
Okay, so I believe our mentors will have their handles available to us to follow them. Listen, reach out to them at this point. Take the mentor-mentee thing forward. I know Gypsy has programs for you to get deeper interaction with mentors. I enjoyed that so much. So please, let's flow with that. Okay, so we have Miss Bernice's handle already in the chat box. Please, Mr. Michael, if you help us, yeah, exactly. Legally Savvy. I know that one so much. I think I follow both your handles. So, Mr. Michael, please, you have a way to get through to you on LinkedIn, on IG, so what platform you're most comfortable with. Please, let's have the handles, and our mentees will surely follow through. Mr. Dennis, you're about saying something, sir.
I was talking about pictures.
Okay, that's true. God, we're having such a great time. We forgot our picture time. Please, quickly, mentees, if it's not mine, last week, many of you weren't turning on your cameras. Please, let us turn our cameras briefly for a very quick picture time. It's, of course, imagine having a picture with Mr. Michael and Miss Bernice. A quick tip, I saved all my picture time from my time as a mentee. That's my bragging right. That's my bragging right, of course, because most people would not see them in person. I saw them through. Okay, I'll shut up now. Mentees, please have your cameras on. Thank you. Mentees, I'm waiting. Come on, mentees. I want to see more cameras up, please. Okay, the capital movement. So you can find Mr. Michael on his handle, the capital movement. So, Michael, is that for Instagram?
Yes.
Or for LinkedIn?
So the three are for Instagram.
Both of them?
The two.
Okay.
The capital movements, the Beyond Divide collectives are my page, not just my page. Me and my team, we have a page,
okay.
And the capital movements and the Beyond Divide collectives. Yes, we deal mainly on entertainment and generally. Then Zoomg.83 is my personal handle. Then my LinkedIn handle is okay. Let me just type it.
You just type it, please, so that it's easier. Mentees, I'm still waiting for those cameras to come up. Please bring it up, because who knows, by next session I might just be wearing an outfit for Mr. Michael's fashion brand. Yes, which he will gladly give to me at no cost. Thank you, Lord.
Let's see.
Okay, so thank you so much. Mr. Michael, I was trying to be reaching out for that particular outfit at no cost. Thank you.
No problem. I'm trying to release one of my mercs latest June, so definitely I'll reach out and see if I can get you one.
I will follow you up on that. Please, this is recorded. I have evidence to show in court that you made a promise and then you didn't come up with your promise. Anyway, please, thank you so much. We are having such a great time here this evening. I think I've done this severally already, so thank you and have a fabulous evening. Mentees, do not forget to read up on everything you learned today. One more time, thank you so much to Ms. Bernice and to Michael. Thank you for giving us such an amazing time. Have a fabulous evening and a fabulous night. Good night.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
Thank you.